again. Glad to see you. This is going to be a episode about my race creation. Good. The video's working. So let's scroll down to races. And we scrolled too far. Okay. Dwarves are an easy one because I already have them done. Now let's take a quick look at the differences between the dwarves here and the dwarves in the PHP. Because I think I made some minor differences. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't upset with how they did everything, I just wanted a few changes. So I kept the Constitution modifier, kept the speed at 25, uh, kept the dark vision, the advantage on saving throws for poison. That should... Saving throws for poison is a minor thing, except when you're being poisoned, it's very damage relevant. Sometimes it's not, but like Serpent's Poison it is. Kept the resistance to poison. I might just knock this up to 1, knock this up to 3, because resistance to poison should be 3. It's a type of damage, it's a common type of damage. Um, okay, so there we go. Kept the Dwarven combat training, which is actually worth a little bit more just because of how many axes it is. But the hand axe, the light hammer, the book says throwing hammer, but the errata says light hammer, and really it gives you the battle axe and the war hammer. The other two are simple, depending on your class, I suppose. Tool proficiency. They were specific on which tools you could use. I kind of opened that up because dwarves need people of every type of profession as well as anyone else. I mean, I don't have publisher open, but I do have this. I mean, the dwarves are going to need jewelers. They don't have that in here. Nope, no jewelers. The dwarves are going to need navigators. They might not need painters too much, but they're going to need tinkerers. They're going to need weavers. A lot of these things they're going to need just alchemists. So I left it as any type of tool training. Sure, most dwarves are going to be more likely to do smith tools, brewer's tools, or mason's tools, but not everyone. I kept their advantage versus, wait, do they have advantage versus being knocked prone? I gave them advantage versus being knocked prone. But took out their stone cutting. Whenever you make a history check related to the origin of stonework, you're considered proficient, and add double your proficiency to the check instead of your normal proficiency. That's such... That's such a minor occurrence that I don't even want to... I don't even want to deal with... I don't want to deal with it. I mean, in my game, I'm not going to remember it. My players aren't going to remember it. And even if I do remember it, I'm not going to have it pop up often enough for it to have any type of effect. It won't help the race. Uh, it might pop up once or twice in an entire campaign. It's just not worth it. So I took that out. And I added proficient advantage versus being knocked prone or grappled due to their sturdiness. Eh, I thought they used to have it. Maybe a different edition. Anyway, and they have two languages, Common and Dwarven. So all that's good and happy. Mm, how are we going to do that? How do you move this stuff in here? If oh well. So we're just going to copy over the sub races. Um, Actually, let me bring my chat up on this video. That way I can see if anyone says anything. Which there's no one watching, so there's no one to say anything. But we will copy over all these sub races. Ooh. I didn't remember giving them a free feat. So let's talk about these sub races. Clearly, the gem finders get a free feat. That's pretty cool. But it's not. It's about in power with what the other guys are getting. It might be a little stronger because they can also burrow. Uh, Iron Friends can smell metal, armors, and weapons. That's pretty cool. They're resistant to bludgeoning damage, which is really cool. And they deal extra damage to fiends, fays, and undead when making melee attack weapons. Um, it's not a significant amount of extra damage, but 1d4 still. Actually, that should only be a 1. Okay, plus 1 damage on average is worth 1 point. But plus 1 damage for very specific things, like fiends, fae, and undead, is worth half a point. That's why I go to an average of +2, which is 1d4. 1d4 is an average of 2.5, but still. That means I need to give them something else. I don't know why I didn't notice that before. All of this is about tweaking. You have to play test everything. Yes, but you also have to be willing to tweak things. So the keen senses is cool. It's a nice little thing. The resistant to bludgeoning is really cool. The Iron Friends were kind of made to be paladins, it seems like. Undead hunters with the rangers, maybe. Or fiends or fey hunters, I guess. I really just want to add celestials. I will. You know, this would be a really good time to say undead and just outsiders, if they still had that term. But they don't. So, I limited it to melee weapon attacks. You know what? I can probably knock this up to 2 if I take out the melee. Then I don't need to come up with anything else. And that's another key. Figuring out what you can change to get the points that you want. +1 to wisdom, worth 3, just like every other stat bonus. +1d3 when dealing fire or radiant damage. There's no way that's worth 2. +1d4 when dealing fire or radiant damage. Again, that's pretty freaking specific. It helps with, like, a wizard. You know what type of damage you're going to go for. A cleric, fire and radiance, your bread and butter. But it's an average of +2 damage, and it's so specific. I might have to come through and edit those things. -1 to Constitution, +2 to Wisdom. Interesting trade. That's kind of cool. Maybe not worth 2, but kind of cool. And now you see how I go through this. Not everything is exact. Spirit Nose. Ooh, I like the Spirit Nose. Now, it's clear that Spirit Nose are a caster, meant to be casters because of the bonus action to ready a cantrip. Oh no. I guess they get a cantrip anyway. They do not deserve and medium. And medium is a little bit much, especially if you're meant to be a caster. The light armor proficiency is already a huge bonus. It would be worth more, but so many classes get it for free. But if it's actually worthwhile, it's worth a lot. That's like down here, you've got this Hammersmith, which is completely based on the Mountain Dwarf. And the +2 to strength, which is worth 6 normally, is nearly useless. I actually haven't read the Bladesinger Wizard, so I don't know. It might not be useless for the Bladesinger Wizard, but it's nearly useless for most casters who don't get the light and medium armor. It's useless, nearly useless for most classes who don't get light and medium armor already. Um, so the armor is what's useful for the casting classes, and the strength is what's useful for the combat classes. It's kind of a catch-22. This light armor proficiency still useless for a lot of classes, but this class is clearly built to be a caster. These other things are useful for casters. An extra cantrip, but you got to use that class's modifier. And you may use a bonus action to ready a cantrip. That's cool, because then you're using a bonus action and you're casting it as a reaction. It uses up both your bonus action and reaction to get the cantrip out, but it's still cool. And if you go with something like a fighter, sure, the light armor proficiency doesn't matter, but I suppose barbarian would be a better example. But the cantrip can really stack up more than a single attack, extra attack. Just saying. Axe Hider, I think I went towards Rogue with this. So you get the +3 from the +1 to dexterity, or you get the 3 points from that. One-handed axes are finesse weapons. That might be a little overpowered. One-handed, non-versatile. What's the best? The best sword that is finesse. I think we're going to be talking rapier. 1d8 piercing. The best one-handed battle axe, or the best one-handed axe, 1d8 slashing. Yeah, I'll take out the non-versatile. Sure, you can use versatile ones. You just can't use them two-handed. And keep them finesse. 1d8 damage, finesse weapon, and they get proficiency with stealth. Skills are worth 2. So, there you go. These guys are pretty cool. Okay, the bonus to speed knocks them up to a normal race. They get +1 to any ability, so that gives them a lot of versatility. Now this as a bonus action, once per short rest, they can eat a mushroom. For 1 minute, they gain one of the following effects based on which mushroom they eat, essentially. Advantage on a single ability check. So pick wisdom. You have advantage on all your perception checks. That's pretty cool. Or you'd have advantage on. Yeah, that's more proper grammar. Checks. Advantage on a specific save. That's cool. Uh, you need wisdom saves, charisma saves for something, constitution saves. I don't know. But it takes a bonus action, so you can't do it. You can do it right before the fight, or right before the dragon goes anyway, and take advantage on dexterity saves to avoid the fire, but it's not going to help you against a trap or something like that. +1 damage once per round. Not bad. Extra dark vision. Very cool. Extra speed. I decided that any of these things is worth 2. Okay? The extra dark vision, the extra speed, both worth 2. The 1 damage per round, that's worth 1. But still. Advantage on a save, that's worth a little more. And advantage on a single abilities checks, well, because that's a lot of different abilities, that's worth more too. But you have to use your bonus action. You can only do it once per short rest. It's very limited. Those limitations make those other 2 not worth nearly as much. The damage still isn't worth as much, but in specific circumstances, it'd be cool. So yeah, it's I made it worth 2 because of the limitations. The bonus action is what did it for me. Now see, I really did like, I mean, the Hammersmith is essentially the Mountain Dwarf. I don't think I put, oh yeah, I put the Hill Dwarf as a Whiskey Slarp, so. Deep Finder. These guys are cool. So, because of the sunlight sensitivity, I was able to give them more other bonuses. Oh, Silver Targe takes a hit on Constitution as well. Why is this strength? This should be wisdom. Now you'll notice one thing. None of these races, none of these sub-races get a bonus to charisma. That's because I'm still of the mindset from 3.5 that dwarves aren't very charismatic. The only exception to that is perhaps the mushroom growers, who could use their single ability in charisma. Oh wait, Brewbottom too. Well, yeah. brew bottom get it because they make so much alcohol. Everyone loves the dwarf who makes the alcohol. Um, so, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, but mostly, well, that gives you two. I've got one giving it to dexterity. I've got intelligence. I've got a lot of people going for wisdom. A lot of people going for wisdom. Eh, I will change you back to strength. I already have other people going for wisdom. You might as well get strength. Be great at what you do. That just makes Whiskey Slarps probably the best barbarians. Um, the shield proficiency isn't worth much, but is worth something. The intelligence bonus makes you a great wizard. Straight up. I mean, that's what it does. You're losing constitution. Uh, there's not much. Yeah. Shields count as a focus for you. As a casting focus for you. That's beyond huge. As a ritual, you may place a silver rune on a shield of a spell that you can cast. Okay. As an action, you may cast that spell once per long rest. If you ever want to change the spell, you must perform another ritual. This just does not have to be a traditional ritual spell. This basically gives you an extra spell slot of any level. Okay? Level 1, it gives you one extra spell slot. Level 2, you can knock that into a spell of second level. It also means that if it's a spell that you probably are going to use, but aren't going to use much, you can make it something that you don't have to prepare. For instance, if you're a wizard, uh, the chances that you're going to use, well, you never know. If you're going to use levitate, you're going to use it a lot. But the chances that you're going to use, this is short rest, long rest. Once per long rest. The chances that you're going to use identify very often tends to be low. You can do that once per long rest and just never prepare the spell. But you might use it. The chances that you're going to use Animate Dead often, maybe, but usually you just use it once per long rest. Because that's when the guys need to be refreshed under your control. And you can drag some random bodies around and use it the next day. Now, long rests in my game are once a week, but still, once per long rest works. The next race is Elf, which I have not finished their. I know I have the staff stuff somewhere. Okay, Sill Staff. And I know I have them somewhere. I might have to find it, but maybe I put it on these cards. For a little while, I was trying to make everything be card-based so that my players could... That was irritating. Game stuff. Oh well. I must not have that anymore. Well, that wasn't useful. I gave these cards to Catherine at one point. She liked them a lot. We'll open up Rolling Blind. No, I don't think I have any elves in here. This one has a Merrick's Raid Elf. So, oh well. Swim speed, breathe underwater. The dry skin gave a minus. I know I balanced this out at one point. I just clearly don't have it balanced in here. I don't know why. I even have it checked off here. Oh, maybe that was the map. Hello, darling. I'm doing a video. So, I don't know why I don't have any of my elf sub-races. Oh, I didn't change anything. So, we'll come back to the elf sub-races in the future. Let's go and redo the human race. I've been wanting to redo the main human race, and I'm probably going to have to redo Alt Branch with it. I know I'm going to have to redo Alt Branch with it. So, okay. The way humans are in this game is they are, in everyone's mind, the default race. They are the most generic. When you look at them, you're like, okay, they can become anything, but they don't start off good at anything. And that's all well and good to a degree, but it makes them the easiest race to be when you don't know what you want when you're a new player. And that's fine. As well, I just want them to have a little bit more something to them. Okay. Teddy, I'm going to shoot you. Alright, so let's start with this +1 to 2 different abilities. That's great. That's worth 6. No one else has it to any 2 abilities. I want humans to feel like the other races do, so that every other race doesn't feel like, well, they're humans except. No, the dwarves are not at all going to be like the humans. They're a sturdy race. The humans are a charismatic race. You're no longer they're actually species, but we'll call them race. you're no longer allowing them to be so generic. And I actually was talking about this with someone, and I have some stuff. So humans' big thing is that they're going around and gathering the other. They often end up being the ones to go around and gather the other races. Uh, I know Gandalf wasn't human, but other than him, I think the biggest person that everyone gathered around was Aragon. And the races of man were the ones that were really holding everything together. The other races kind of came in and helped to a degree, but it was the humans who banded together and whose land the war was really fought on. And you look at most of the mythology, and it's usually the human being the charismatic one, gathering the group together. Uh, Even modern stuff, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy. There's 5 different races there. What is Quill? Quill's the human who, or Stormlord, uh, Star Lord, I mean, he's the human who is gathering them all together. He's the funny one. So that's our dude. That's who we're basing. That's the type of person we're basing this off of. Is the person who is going to gather the group together. So we're going to give, and this is why I have to change Alt Branch, because I made Alt Branch that type of person. We're going to give them proficiency towards persuasion. And yes, we are taking out the feat. I know you guys are upset. Yeah, so that's cool. After that, we're going to knock into the other big thing is that humans, a lot of times, are the determined one. They're the ones who aren't giving up at the end of the line. So, even when all hope is lost, I'm not coming up with great names right now. I apologize. But couple this in with the wizards, with the divination wizard's portent, and you've got some really good rolls. You get to take 20. It's only once per long rest, so it's not that great, but you get to take 20. I might knock this down to 2, I might leave it at 3. It's still pretty cool. Um, so at this point, they've got 11, 12, and the tool proficiency would bring them up to 13. And we'll leave the tool proficiency. That is not what I wanted to do. Okay, the last part I want to talk about is a bonus that they get for being in a group. Um, a big thing about kobolds and goblins is that they work en masse. And kobolds work together en masse, and goblins just kind of become a mob. There's a difference. Humans work together really well in small groups. Big groups, they kind of become more mob-like. Small groups, they're super cool. Um, so, I want to give them something to reflect that. We're at 13 out of 16, so something worth about 3 or 4. Because this is worth about 2 or 3 in my opinion. Let's go up to some race rules. Conditional advantage is pretty cool. Alright, we're going to make this into a bonus action. Bonus action. Basically, you're able to do the help action twice. I think I like that. You're able to use charisma to get a group together. You're determined. You're able to withstand a save. You're able to land that necessary blow, which, by the way, would be a critical. You're able to know that one piece of information, perceive that enemy, whatever you want to use determined for. And then, as a bonus action, you're able to give advantage to up to 2 allies against a single enemy. That's pretty cool. That's... And then you've got your tool proficiency. It uses up your bonus action. Kinda sucks. But advantage can be really useful, especially if you're working with a rogue. Um, this is an attack advantage. Because this is not giving an advantage to saving throws. That I would kind of make a reaction. And I'm going to allow this on indefinitely, as many times as you want. Yeah, that would make it 4. We'll knock that up to 3 maybe. 4. The critical, whatever. It doesn't hurt to have him be at 17. 17's in range. Uh, yeah, I like this. I think this is the human that I want. Um, I realize that it's not nearly as versatile as the base human, but this makes them another unique race. Now, as you can see, I really need to get rid of the things with Alt Branch. I mean, the only thing I can keep is advantage on insight when dealing with a merchant. Ah, which is unfortunate. There is somewhere where I allow. This was cool. Oops. This was cool. These humans can command their mount to help or ready. So, for instance, you can command your mount to ready a dash action. You can't command them to ready attack action because you can't command them to attack. But you can use them to shove, the special attack action. That's really cool. That's worth a lot, though. These guys need some more stuff. So, now see, I want to give them one free language. Or they're proficient in every language. One of the reasons why the Old Branch humans are going to be so proficient in languages is because they're surrounded by all these races. And uh, specifically, the Old Branch humans created Goldar. Okay? And okay, there's two factions of Old Branch humans. There's the ones who created Goldar, and there's the ones who became undead and raised by a lich in the necropolis that used to be Old Branch. The refugees created Goldar. And Goldar has dwarves, gnomes, elves, hobgoblins, and kobolds all living there. It's the uh, it's the center for so many places. So them knowing all of those languages would make sense for them. So yeah, we're gonna actually give them that, and I think I'm gonna give them a skill. Or spell. I could give them a spell. Everyone likes a spell. Okay, so they have advantage on insight. When dealing with merchants. Let's look at some spells. And by the way, one big thing that I did with the spells is I made a lot more of them have rituals, so I might give them like a single ritual they can cast. Now see, Detect Magic would be great for Tremere, but we don't want to give that to... Comprehend Languages would be cool, except they already know all the languages. I mean, seriously, they know Common, Dwarven, Elven, Gnomish, and Goblin. Common, Dwarven, Elven, Gnomish, Goblin, and Draconic. What do they still need to learn? Deep Speech, the Primordial Languages. Seriously, there are no other standard language. Sign language, maybe. I don't know. Not as useful. Yeah, I'm not seeing a spell that really speaks out to me for these guys. Detect Good and Evil is probably the best, because I think that detects undead and it would really play into their Detect Undead would really play into their hatred for undead. Um, but hmm, let's figure something else out for them. Oh, Teddy, I'm gonna shoot you. That dog is really starting to irritate me. There's no weapons that they're particularly good at. Skill advantage. I already gave it a conditional advantage on insight. Would they have advantage on something else? They already get advantage on persuasion. Alright. Okay, so I knocked the advantage on insight into non-conditional. They just plain have advantage on insight, and now they also have advantage on history. Actually, I'm just going to give them the free skill. Proficiency with insight. And advantage on history when appraising an item. So that gives conditional. Eh, sometimes we would use. Yeah, I suppose history is the best thing for appraisal. Yeah. So it gives them proficiency with insight, which is cool. Um, and advantage on history when appraising. That'll be good. That's only a +1, the advantage on history, so it's not the biggest thing that they're getting. The language proficiencies are one of the bigger things that they're getting. And basically, they know every language, which really will help open things up. Uh, I don't use languages nearly enough, but I should use them more. And I think this, if I had someone from Old Branch in one of my games, it would probably help. I know that having dragons who didn't understand Common definitely increased how much I used languages because I often just use Common. And that made it very interesting. Uh, this would also make it interesting, I think. Yeah, I like this. Oh, you don't have to save OneNote. That's right. Anyway, I'm going to call this it for the video. Um, I see that there's still no one watching, so I hope if anyone did pop in for a little bit that they enjoyed it. This is how I do my races. I think it might be better if next time I just show you through them after they're done. But I honestly have a difficult time working on it when I'm not making a video. So, take it easy.